Well, here we are. And I guess in lots of ways, this is where the mindfulness course has always been leading. It wants to be here. So welcome to here. When you've been practicing, when you've been sitting there, when you've been focusing on your breath and you feel it coming in and going out, what happens when you have some thoughts? We've said, notice the thoughts. Thoughts come, thoughts go, back to the breath. But what happens when the thoughts are difficult thoughts? And by now, maybe you're starting to notice that there's a pattern to some of these thoughts. These are negative thoughts. These are negative thoughts about. What happens when you're sitting there and the thoughts keep coming? Well, sometimes they can come and they can go. But if they're difficult thoughts, then my question is, what do you notice happening in your body? You just think about that for a moment. You're sitting there and you're breathing in and out, and then a thought comes along about something you've got to do in the future that you don't want to do. What are the reactions in your body? Or maybe the thought is something that's happened in the past. There is no way of changing it, but it keeps coming back. A difficult, a painful thought. Or maybe it's if only it hadn't been like that type of thought. Whatever difficult means for you, where do you feel it in your body? So for some of us, our belly flips over, we have butterflies, don't we? Or our chest gets tight. Or our legs cramp up, or our toes start to grip the carpet. Or maybe you feel tension across your shoulders and your neck. Or maybe your brow furrows. You may not notice some of these things, but it happens. So what we're going to do now is probably for you, and for lots of people on the course, not just you, revolutionary. What we normally do is we avoid those thoughts. We don't want them, we don't want to go there. And every time we avoid, remember the vicious flower, every time we avoid, it becomes more difficult. It's like avoiding is a locking nut, and it locks in the problem. What about if we can unlock the problem? So instead of avoiding, we're going to turn towards the difficult thought, but we are changing our relationship to it. So instead of it being a thought, or there's a thought, great Auntie Maud, it's so embarrassing. She spilt the beer all over the vicar. Oh, I cringe now. Such a lovely vicar she was. Remember that? When you get that type of difficult thought, instead of saying, oh, I can't go there, why don't we just say, oh, well, it happened. Where do I notice that in my body? And for me, it was like trying to, I don't really want to look, but I'm just squeezing a glimpse. That's what I do. My face screws up. My chest goes tight normally. There's a real tightness in my chest with a difficult thought. Something I did and wish I hadn't. Something I said and wish I hadn't. And sometimes it's things that I've got to do and I don't want to do them. There's a feeling in my body. So if you're watching on YouTube, I will post the link to the practice in the description, just underneath here. They all do that. And if you're watching on Facebook, the next post, I will post the link. So it's Finding Peace in a Frantic World. It's turning towards difficulty. And what we're going to do is we're going to feel the sensation in our body. So when you do the practice, notice the thought. And then as soon as you notice the thought, let the thought go and drop your awareness into the sensation that it's leaving in your body, and explore the sensation, not the thought. Oh, I can feel my chest is tight. What does tight mean? How wide does that feeling go across my chest? How deep does it go? Is there a colour attached to it? And when I focus on it, the feeling in the body, not the thought, what happens when I pay attention to the feeling? So Mark Williams will guide you through it. Trust him, and you will be given a choice. He asks you to think of something that's not too big. If it doesn't come up in your practice, he asks you to go and find something, a difficult thought that's not too big. So on a scale of 1 to 10, something around 3 or 4 on the not very serious. All we're doing now is we are playing with this. We are practicing. What happens when I have the difficult thought? I drop down, letting the thought go, feeling it in my body and exploring the bodily sensation. What happens then? Okay, this is the crux of how this course wants to go. So you are an important part. Don't rush this. I'm going to be posting some more things, but for the next 5, maybe 6 days, don't rush on. Just stay with this. Keep practicing. Just plodding on. Don't skip to the end. Plod through it. If it's too difficult, if a dangerous thought for you comes up, okay, you can always come back to feeling your feet, feeling your breath in the body, and if it's really uncomfortable, opening your eyes. But hopefully that won't happen, because you'll choose something that's small enough to leave a sensation in the body somewhere, chest or back or legs, that you can play with and explore with curiosity. Remember, Curious George? Back he comes. Being curious. Remember patience? Back it comes. Remember being non-judgmental? Back it comes. Using all the things that you've learned so far in this solid and steady place to explore in safety the feelings in your body that are arising. Okay, I wish you well.